I'm Simon Russell. I am a farmer in Maui, and I've been here on Maui since 1997. I come from the island of Kauai, where I was also a farmer. My mother was a commercial nursery operator, and so we sold flowers and houseplants and tropical fruit trees and a lot of other things throughout the state.
Awesome. And what's your position? What type of career do you have?
Right now, I am a farm operator. I'm no longer a farm owner because I believe the forces of globalization put my family farm out of business. So right now, my primary profession is farmer, and I derive all of my income from that. On the side, my night job, my volunteer position is with the Hawaii Farmers Union, where I work a full-time position to promote the family farmer here in Hawaii and make sure that we all can make a living at what we love to do, which is farming.
And what's your mission?
The Hawaii Farmers Union mission is to create and sustain vibrant and prosperous agriculture communities throughout the state of Hawaii using the three tools of education, legislation, and cooperation. I happen to be the education director and the legislative chairman for the Hawaii Farmers Union. So I work at the legislature educating our leaders in what it is like to try to make a living in this state farming, where land is $200,000 an acre, water ain't free, electricity is expensive, rent is through the roof, everything is shipped here. So the cost of living for the average family farmer is very high.
That sounds quite challenging. Monsanto claims to want to feed the world. Are you using Monsanto's practices to feed the world in what you promote with your farmers?
Not this world. I feed my family and my community. I would take exception with that statement. You know, for the record, their crops mainly feed, I believe it's mostly ethanol plants and cattle, and maybe some people eat their products. I actually know that Monsanto has many lines of seed besides their GMO corn. But the model I use is family farming, typically not modern mechanized monoculture. I like diversified polyculture that uses what many would consider the triple bottom line, taking into account the social, economic, and cultural significance of any type of business.
So it sounds like you don't believe that GMOs are needed to feed the world.
I don't know. You know, they're needed to feed the bank accounts of a few large corporations. I mean, my favorite farming method right now is called natural farming. Some people call it biological farming, Korean natural farming, Hawaiian natural farming, ecological farming. It's basically increasing the soil ecology to such a high level that the plants don't need any external inputs, meaning fertilizer, pesticide, less water. And it takes a little while to build up the soil ecology to where the plants will create complete proteins within their structure, and then the bugs don't really want them. Because when you have pest problems, to some extent, many pests feed on plants that create incomplete proteins. So they're kind of doing the gene pool a favor. They're getting rid of the weak. They're kind of like a shark in the ocean, or a wolf in the wilderness. They go after those weak specimens and destroy them, and then the strong will promote their DNA, and you'll have a much better gene pool.
So it's like the survival of the fittest. A sick antelope will sort of call a lion to it to eliminate it from the herd. Mm-hmm. The same sort of thing happens in plants. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, many farmers would argue with that. They would say, oh no, perfectly healthy plants have lots of pests, and we need all kinds of pesticides and herbicides to protect a very healthy crop. So what you're saying is completely opposite of that.
Yeah, the people I work with don't say those things, but yes, some people would say that. I mean, if you look at the soil structure or the soil profile of some monoculture, say a sugarcane field maybe that's been farmed in monoculture for 100 years, it's typically extremely compacted. There's very little microbiology. There's certainly very little organic matter, and all these things that we know nature needs to survive. And plus, nature doesn't operate in monocultures. Nature operates in diversity, and there's strength in diversity. We know that. And for social structures or natural systems or farming systems. And so as a farmer, I view farming as a system of systems. I'm like a systems engineer. I work with water, I work with electricity, I work with plants, animals, fertility, pest management, a bunch of different factors to create the output that I want. And it's difficult, and it has a lot of challenges. It's way easier to grow one crop with a machine and apply a bunch of chemicals on top of it than it is to create a diverse ecological farm.
If you were wanted to grow sugarcane and you were doing it by the farming methods that you just described, how would you do that differently?
I do grow sugarcane with the farming methods I just described. And what I do is first I plow in, well, first I take soil samples. That's the first thing you do. And any farmer, conventional, GMO, organic, normally will take soil samples to look at the soil profile and see what's in there and what's not in there, more importantly, so they can put stuff in there. And I do the same. Typically I'll look for nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, potassium, magnesium, all the main essential macronutrients, and then I'll look for some micronutrients, copper, molybdenum, zinc, chromium, and some other ones. And I'll do a soil test and test the pH and these other things, and then I'll remediate with some mineral powders. And on top of that...
Which are all natural.
Yeah, they're naturally occurring
yeah.
minerals. And they get incorporated into the soil typically with a backhoe or an excavator or a plow. And I build up the soil nutrient levels, and then I'll add some nitrogen, typically cow manure. And the cow manure isn't really for the plants, it's for the microbiota. So the microbiota go on next. And that is a group of organisms that are cultivated from the forest nearby. So we go into the natural environment and we harvest the naturally occurring microorganisms that live in that environment. And they have these life cycles that create a lot of fertility in the soil. They also aerate the soil. And there are fungi, protozoa, bacteria, and other life forms that live in the soil, even bugs. But mainly I'm going after the fungi and bacteria, and so those are called microorganisms, or we call them IMOs. So I extract those from the native environment, and I cultivate them on a substrate of mill run of wheat, which is imported, unfortunately. We're looking for alternatives to that substrate to grow out our medium. Basically, we're cultivating these IMOs, and it looks like a web. When you look at it under a microscope, it's like this microscopic web of life. As I do that, I also incorporate biochar. And biochar is a charred wood. It's basically charcoal, and it's not biologically active until the microbes live in it, and it has a very high surface area. So the microbes go into the biochar and they inhabit it. And so all of these compounds, the IMOs with biochar, will be, the growth of the organisms will be accelerated with plant juice compounds, extracts, fermentations, and other things we just call preparations. There's things like oriental herbal nutrients, fermented plant juices, lactobacillus, which is basically yogurt water, water-soluble calcium, and some other organic compounds that go into the IMO production phase. And so we grow out these IMOs to a high level, to maybe several tons, and then we spread them across a field. And you want to keep the sun off them.
How long does it take to grow them out?
About a week.
Oh,
So a week or two, a month sometimes, depending on the amount you're growing. So if you're growing, enough for 10 acres, maybe it would take you a month or so. If you're growing for your garden, maybe a week. You might need 1 ton for a garden, 100 tons for 10 acres. Just depends what you're doing. And these fertility generating microbes will go into, remember I said first I put in the minerals, and I put the manure, and then I till it all in, and then we put a layer of the microbes on top of it. And then you need to shield them from the sun while they get incorporated in the soil structure. Mm-hmm. And I typically put like grass clippings or wood chips on top. Okay. And that allows them some time to inoculate the soil structure. Okay. And basically what we're creating is topsoil, and a lot of it really quickly. Mm-hmm. And if you look at topsoil, it has millions of microbes living in there. And there's a 6-inch layer of topsoil around the surface of the earth in some places that we all owe existence to. And so I'm building topsoil at a high rate with natural farming practices. And I don't use much imported fertilizer. And I'm trying to get down to zero. But the fact is Hawaii has new soils that are volcanic in nature, and they don't have a lot of minerals. We don't have phosphorus in our soil here. We don't have a lot of other things that you might find in, say, Wisconsin or the Great Plains states, or even California with the deep alluvial soils. So Hawaii is a new place on Earth. We're a hot spot.
So you need to tend to the soil and add in.
To build the soil, yeah.
Build it up, okay. And so after you did all that, you would plant sugarcane, and you would continue, would you not continue planting sugarcane every year, or would you rotate out crops?
Well, I would monitor the health. If I saw the health failing, I would put something else. Typically right now I'm growing sugarcane in the same naturally farmed area for about 3 years. I am seeing some more disease outbreak, so I may remove it with a machine and plant something else for a while, probably some cover crops. Ideally, every year or so you rotate your crops. Sugarcane is an 8-month crop, so a lot of this is fairly new, and the data that exists is in Korean. So we're working with the University of Hawaii to do field trials for this practice called Korean natural farming, or natural farming, biological farming, yeah.
Awesome. So you have a lot of these sound like successful methods to farm and to grow food, to feed your population. So do you believe that you need GMOs and toxic chemicals to achieve this?
I'm an organic farmer, so no, I don't believe that. But I mean, it's as an organic farmer, it's difficult to compete with the low prices at Costco. So what I do in the Farmers Union is I'm looking at ways that our social structure, as far as America or Hawaii or Maui, can support the family farmer, so that we can make a living doing what we love to do. Because right now the price point, due to our high cost of living, isn't comparable to the price point of bananas coming out of Ecuador. So a lot of things I do is I do just anecdotal studies. I'll go to Costco and I'll look at the price of bananas today. You'll see organic USDA organic bananas from Ecuador for 60 cents a pound. Not organic Hawaiian bananas in Costco are $1.70 to $2 a pound. There's a huge difference in the price of imported food versus the price of locally grown food. Amazingly, in the most remote place on earth, we have higher prices for local food than we do for imported food. You would think, because we're so far away, local would be cheaper.
Why is that?
Well, the simple answer is the high cost of living,
You don't think it's the subsidies that are given to the tariffs that are lowered for other imported food?
No, because we're part of the United States, that's technically illegal. There aren't any that I know of.
Okay.
Maybe there should be, but then we'd get sued by the World Trade Organization. Those bananas from Ecuador at 60 cents a pound are being grown most likely in the Amazon rainforest or near to it. The coast of, well, I guess Ecuador is pretty tropical, so they could grow bananas anywhere maybe, but let's just assume they got on a boat in Quito and they travel north about 7,000 miles to Los Angeles. Then they travel west 2,500 miles to Hawaii. Then they get on a barge on Oahu and they come to Costco on Maui. So they've traveled almost 10,000 miles at that point. The ones from my backyard are still twice as much at the store. Like for me, I can't afford my cost of living here to sell bananas for less than $1 a pound. So even the ones I pick myself and I take to the store, my cost of living, the rent is very high. So your point earlier about subsidies and tariffs is a good one. I think the subsidies, if you look at the data, most ag subsidies go to the big companies, with the corn growers, the wheat growers, the commodity producers, the beef producers. And I think America needs to reevaluate that, and especially with the loss of the family farmer. We're in a situation right now where the average age of the family farmer is around 60. We could lose most of our farmers in one generation, and that's a scary thought. And already America's going in the direction, and many other industrial countries are going in the direction of not being able to produce anything for themselves. Already China does most of the world's manufacturing. We lost a huge section of our manufacturing base in America. We've lost, it used to be in the 50s, I think 1 in 2 Americans were farmers. Now it's 1 in 100 or something in that nature, 2 in 100, who knows? I mean, I don't know if the data is exactly accurate, but I do look at the National Agricultural Statistical Service's data from time to time, and it's pretty scary with regards to the age of the family farmer and the farmer in general. And then you look at the debt load of the farmer. You know, to be a big ag producer, you have to have millions of dollars, and that puts you in a position where one tornado or one blizzard can wipe out your crop and you're bankrupt, and then you need these crop insurances, and the whole system is very fragile. That's why society needs to build in some kind of a support structure for its local food producer, and it's just good. Like, many countries support their local economies, and they, you know, I've spent some time in Vermont. Like, the town of Montpelier, their state capital, doesn't have a Walmart or a McDonald's or any of these big box stores. They're like, no, we're keeping all of our stores small and local, and it creates business. And while prices may be higher, everybody has more money because it's not leaving the economy. And so I think a lot of the problem with the lack of family farmers in America is political. It's a political problem. They're not getting the support they need from the society, and we ought to take a look at that as a people in this country.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. The UN, a branch of the UN, recently put out a report called Wake Up Before It's Too Late, which claimed that small organic farming was really the only way to feed the world going forward. Yeah. And what you're doing is to help support that in your local community. So you really are one of the leaders of the future, and I appreciate what you're doing so much, and I hope that a lot of young people find out about what you're doing here in Maui and around the world. Young people get interested in farming because this is organic farming. This is what we need.
Yeah, sustainable. I mean, I read the UN's Agriculture to Crossroads report. I think it was 2010, and it said the exact same thing. Small organic farms have always fed the world. The big ones, typically, they're making processed foods, and the more we look at the data, the more people are getting sick from those foods, and then you need to treat their illnesses with these exotic chemicals that have never existed before, which have massive side effects. And why not just eat good food? Like, let your medicine be your food and your food be your medicine. So, I mean, that's my philosophy, and so it's good for my business.
Great, wonderful. Thank you. Anything else you want to say?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the option to be with you, and appreciate the work you do, Ms. Honeycutt.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mrs. Honeycutt.
Yes, thank you. Well, I appreciate that you're doing everything you're doing. We had the opportunity to interview you because you really bring a whole nother aspect to the interview. So,
well, I'm a solutionary activist. That's what my claim to fame.
Yes, you have to put that in. That's great.
I agitate for solutions. I agitate.
Agitate, great. Awesome. Well, I am proud to know you.
All right. Well, I'm proud to know you too. Yeah, we're gonna make it work for this species, because if we don't, the other option isn't acceptable.